Hello! Many people have heard the quote from The Little Prince, "You become responsible forever for what you have tamed." But sometimes, life confronts people with the cruel reality of having to choose who to take care of first and who to take care of second. On top of that, the human world is home not only to family pets, but also to those who have not been tamed. A teenage girl is crossing the deserted streets of Budapest on her bicycle. There is not a soul around, as if she is in a dream. Suddenly, a huge pack of dogs comes out from around the corner and rushes after her. The dogs bark loudly and catch up with the girl. Lily is 13 years old. She's playing in the park with her dog Hagen. Her parents are divorced, and she lives with her mother Elsa and her new husband. The adults are planning to go to Australia for 3 months, and Lily will stay with her father Daniel. The man works in a butchery. He oversees the quality of beef and can hardly make ends meet. He hasn't seen his daughter in years, and right before the reunion, as luck would have it, his shirt gets dirty with blood. Daniel tries unsuccessfully to wash it off, and politely declines a gift from his coworker who wants to give Lily a piece of meat. Upon meeting his ex-wife, the man is very surprised to learn that he will also have to house the dog that the girl is inseparable from.
A kutya nem jön hozzám.
Ezt ne csináltad, hova tegyem?
Majd a professzor úr vigyáz rá.
Elsa explains that the stepfather is coming with her. She coldly says goodbye to her ex-husband and leaves him to solve the problems on his own. Lily anxiously approaches her father, who gives her soap bubbles, clearly not appropriate for her age, and tells her to spit gum out of her mouth. They get into the car, and behind them, a new batch of cows is led to the slaughterhouse. In the entrance of their apartment building, they meet a neighbor who notices the dog. She reminds them that all mongrel dogs must be registered officially, and that they must pay a tax to keep them in their apartments. Daniel assures her that the dog will not stay there for long. While the father prepares dinner, Hagen lies on the floor looking sad. The dog is clearly worried about the sudden change and the unfriendly people around him. Daniel serves dinner and notices that his daughter secretly feeds her pet with food from the table. He forbids it, and Lily goes to bed. The apartment is very small, so the father gives his daughter an extra bed in his room. He turns away while the teenager changes into her pajamas, and afterward, hears that she is planning to sleep together with Hagen.
Hagen nem alszik ebben a szobában.
Mert?
Mert kutya. Mert én nem alszok kutyákkal egy ágyban.
Daniel roughly grabs the animal and locks it in the bathroom. Hagen is not used to being alone and starts whining. It becomes impossible to sleep, and Lily goes to the dog to calm him down. The girl plays trumpet in the orchestra and takes the instrument out. She plays Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2 by Franz Liszt for Hagen. The dog stops whining, and Lily falls asleep with him in the bathroom. The next morning, they are woken up by someone persistently ringing the doorbell. The animal control officer informs them that they have received a complaint about a dog. The howling and trumpet sounds during the night have clearly disturbed the other residents. But in addition, somebody has complained that the dog is aggressive and lunges at people. The neighbor upstairs is observing the result of her snitching. Daniel tries to lie that he has no animals, but Lily lets Hagen out into the hallway at the wrong time. The man must either pay a tax to keep the mongrel dog in his apartment, or take it to a shelter. Daniel gets angry because the dog was dumped on him by his ex-wife, and he does not want to pay for it. The employee leaves, taking the man's promise that he will get rid of the dog before their next visit. Lily listens anxiously to the conversation from around the corner, but says nothing to her father. As Daniel leaves to take a shower, the girl quickly dresses and rushes out of the house with Hagen. They walk up a hill, where a beautiful view of the city opens before them. Lily notices another dog owner nearby who is training his pet in a cruel manner. She promises not to do this to Hagen because she loves him and considers him a friend. Afterwards, she gets on her bike and rides to the music school. Obviously, this is no place for animals either, so Lily hides the dog in the closet with instruments. The bandmaster arrives, and the orchestra begins to rehearse a piece. The teacher loudly reprimands the students when they make mistakes.
Dávid, szólampróba, ne így gyakorolja.
Hagen gets nervous, breaks out of the closet, and starts barking at the angry band instructor. Lily doesn't immediately reveal that the dog is hers. She doesn't really know what to do now. The teacher demands that she kick the dog out and return to class. But Lily doesn't obey and leaves with Hagen. They are wandering down the street when a furious Daniel in his car finds them. The father was already thinking of calling the police when he was notified by the music school. He puts Lily in the car, where the girl says she will not let him take Hagen to the shelter. But Daniel flatly refuses to let the dog into the apartment and pay for him. At this point, Lily suggests that they at least find him a temporary home. The father explodes with anger, stating that no one would take in a flea-ridden mutt.
Öljék meg a kutyámat, ennyire
Te mit
borzasztó
akarsz már?
lenne?
Mi a picsát? Rakjam ki! Rakjam ki ide a kucára!
The man is willing to get rid of the dog at any cost. If his daughter continues to disobey, he threatens to simply drop Hagen off in the middle of the road. Lily thinks her father is bluffing, but the next second the car stops and Daniel grabs the dog. He drags him out onto the sidewalk, but his daughter still refuses to take her friend to a shelter. Then the father shoves the rebellious girl into the car and drives off. Lily yells to Hagen that she'll be back and begs him to wait for her. Daniel refuses to stop despite his daughter's screams. The dog doesn't understand what has happened and rushes after the car. Lily is afraid that he will be squashed on the highway, but her father completely ignores her. With tears in her eyes, the girl watches as Hagen fades into the distance. The dog is left alone and scurries along the road, barely dodging the rushing cars. He is afraid and calls for his owner, but no one comes. The night falls. Lily can't sleep and tries to sneak out quietly. She makes the mistake of stealing meat from the refrigerator, and Daniel catches her. He orders her to go to bed, and the teenager insults her father for being so cruel to Hagen. She says she'll find him anyway. At dawn, the dog wakes up under a bridge. He hasn't eaten anything in almost 24 hours and finds a dead pig on the side of the road. Unaccustomed to such food, he decides to find something better. Hagen crosses the bridge, startled by the honking of ships, and then learns to cross the road on a green light without his owner. He smells meat and makes his way to a meat shop. Here, he spots a stray dog who has also come here to eat. The shaggy white dog with large spots enters the back room, where other dogs are already prowling around. They have found discarded leftovers, but when Hagen comes closer, the dogs begin to aggressively defend their lunch. The barking attracts the butcher, who chases the scavengers away, but the naive Hagen continues to hope that he will be given something to eat. The man becomes enraged at this insolence and pulls out a large meat cleaver. He pushes Hagen into a corner and is about to bring his weapon down on the dog, but his new shaggy friend distracts the butcher in time and saves the mutt. Taking advantage of the hesitation, the dogs flee and run through the streets of Budapest. The white mongrel leads Hagen to puddles where stray dogs quench their thirst and spend the night. Animal control services are well aware of this hideout, and in the morning they carry out another raid on the area. The workers brutally put nooses on the dogs and drag them into cages. Hagen and his new friend try to hide in an abandoned building, but they are discovered and a chase ensues. They are pursued through the streets, and Hagen jumps into an apartment building. He surprises the residents by running right through their apartments, but the animal control officers track him down anyway. They notice his collar, but don't see a name.
Ezzel nyalogatja a kezemet, ez nem gyűlöl minket.
Már nem vágja, hogy mit csinálunk.
Majd megtudja.
One of the men slowly approaches the dog, trying to throw a noose over Hagen, but the white mutt comes to the rescue again and urges him to run. Hagen slips through the bars, and the men can't reach him. But the officers find the mongrel's tracks again, and Lily's pet runs into a back alley where a homeless man hides him under a blanket. When the officers leave, he feeds Hagen, then puts a leash around his neck and drags him away. Meanwhile, Daniel is accompanying Lily to her music class so she doesn't run away. He makes her apologize to the teacher for yesterday's incident and lie that Hagen bit her father and ran away. The bandmaster allows her to return to the orchestra if this doesn't happen again. The men are pleased, and Daniel arranges for his daughter to go with the class to the opera after school. Lily takes her seat with hollow eyes and begins to rehearse. Right after school, she rushes on her bike to the bridge where they left the dog. The girl calls for her friend, but no one responds. She puts up missing dog notices, which she managed to print in secret from her father. Lily wanders around the neighborhood until late in the evening, but all her efforts are in vain. A downpour begins, and the girl goes to the bar where her older bandmates are spending time. To cope with stress and despair, she asks an acquaintance, Peter, to share a cigarette with her. The guy refuses and advises her not to take up smoking. Meanwhile, the homeless man sells Hagen to a man who buys up dogs. Hagen is taken to an abandoned building where other mongrels are kept on a leash 24 hours a day. Turns out the animals are sold to underground dog fights. The next morning, a client comes in and picks Hagen.
Ezt viszem. Mi van? Elment maradék eszed a börtönbe. Ide figyelj, ez tényleg szobakutya.
He notices the kindest and least expensive pet and realizes that he can be trained since he still trusts people. The dealer is surprised, but gladly gets rid of the mutt. Hagen's new owner gives the dog a sedative pill, which makes him fall asleep quickly. Afterwards, he takes him home and starts feeding him a special protein mixture with special substances to make him more aggressive and grow his muscles faster. He takes pictures of Hagen and registers him for a match. Afterward, the trainer proceeds to brutally beat the dog with various tools to prepare him for the fight. Hagen sits in a cramped cage for long periods of time and is forced to fight for food, which the owner hangs from a hook and pulls upwards. The grueling and painful training continues, and the dog's life becomes a living hell. Meanwhile, the bandmaster reprimands the truants for missing the trip to the concert hall. He orders Lily to retell the plot of the opera.
Egyébként a Tannhäuser a szerelemről szól, amit maga úgyse értett, mert nincs szíve.
He kicks everyone out, except for the insolent trumpet player, to teach her a lesson. The teacher demands that she repeat the piece over and over again until she plays it perfectly. At this time, the dog trainer injects Hagen with a large dose of sedatives, which makes him howl and writhe in pain. He falls asleep, and his master begins to sharpen his teeth to make them more dangerous. He then drills a bone onto a large board and gives it to the dog. The man provokes Hagen so that he becomes more anxious and violent. In the meantime, Lily continues to search for her dog. She goes to the shelter and shows the owner a picture of Hagen. She is told that there is no chance of finding her dog. Dogs don't survive that long on the street. He was either hit by a car or killed by other stray dogs. The woman assures her that dogs can only really be safe at the shelter, but Lily doesn't believe her and runs away. She looks for her bicycle outside, but only manages to catch a glimpse of the thief riding it away. That same night, Hagen is brought to an underground fight. After paying for his participation, the trainer shows the dog to the organizers. They think that the dog is too weak and will not survive the fight, but the owner believes in Hagen, whom he now calls Max. Here, the dogs fight till the end, and many fights end with the death of the loser. Everyone places their bets, and Hagen is brought into the arena. A huge black Rottweiler is put up against him, and the dogs begin to fiercely bite and claw each other. The floor is covered in blood, but the wounded dogs are encouraged to go for their rivals' throats by the audience. Hagen falls, but manages to recover and emerges victorious. His opponent can no longer get up and is dragged to the back room. Hagen himself seems shocked at what he has just done. The owner celebrates the victory, while the organizers insist on buying the promising fighter.
Öreg, a kutya mennyi?
Mondtam, hogy nem eladó, nem?
Ne nevetesse, mindig van az az ár.
The trainer continues to refuse, hoping to make money from the dog himself. The men begin to argue, and suddenly, the lights go out in the room. In the commotion, Hagen takes advantage of the chance to escape. The owner is furious, but cannot find the dog in pitch darkness. The animal runs down the road with all his might, escaping the fate of a fighter dog. Lily also has to run on her own 2 feet after her bike got stolen. She bumps into Peter, who is on his way to a party. The girl asks to tag along because the last thing she wants to do is go back to her heartless father. The guy agrees, thinking that the naive brat can be of use. He gives her a bag of illegal substances he just bought in a back alley and asks her to take it inside the club. Hugging the guy as they ride to the party on his bike, Lily feels safe for the first time in a long while. They pretend to be a couple, and security easily lets the underage girl in without searching her. In the club, Peter sees a friend from the orchestra and immediately leaves Lily alone. The girl is left sitting in the corner watching them dance. She still has the bag with her. Her acquaintances leave, and Lily drinks the alcohol that was left on a nearby table. She gets sick and falls asleep on the floor. She wakes up to a dog sniffing her. For a second, she thinks it's Hagen, but it turns out to be a police dog that has smelled the drugs. The officers take the girl away and bring her to the police station. Since she is a minor, she does not get charged, but only has her blood tested for substances. Fortunately, all the tests are negative, and this is reported to her father, who has just arrived. Daniel picks up his daughter, and this time he can no longer be angry at her. Instead, he squeezes her hand and starts crying. Her father didn't realize she was so grown up already and was terrified of losing Lily forever. He feels great remorse for what he has done.
Most elmegyünk egy menhelyre és szerzünk egy kutyát.
Nem kell kutya.
Lily forgives her father and takes his hand. They drive home, where the girl can finally have a decent night's sleep. She is still hungover, and her father wants to skip work to spend time with his daughter. He's afraid she'll run away again, but Lily promises not to and lets him go to work. Meanwhile, Hagen finds the puddles and is reunited with his shaggy friend who has been waiting for him. They spend the night on an old couch, and in the morning play happily on the riverbank together. That's when the animal control people surround them again. They take the animals away and put them in the shelter that Lily visited. Hagen is still injured, and the owner says that no one will take him in this condition. He is escorted into a room with some other dogs, where Tom and Jerry is playing on the TV. Through a crack in the door, the dog sees one of the mongrels being put to sleep.
Nem lesz ellenséget se. Senki nem bánt. Az én világom.
Nem hazudok.
But Hagen is instead led along and put in a cage. There are many other dogs around him, and soon food is brought to them. Hagen doesn't touch it. He no longer trusts humans and doesn't want to take any handouts from them. The next day, the shelter is open to the public. People choose their new pets, and one of the girls notices Hagen. She approaches the bars and holds out her hand, but the dog is no longer the sweet pup that licked the hands of strangers. He bares his teeth and leaps to bite the intruder. The shelter owner immediately runs to the scene and threatens to put the aggressive dog to sleep. The workers take Hagen away from the visitors. They try to put him in a cage with a dozen other dogs, but Hagen breaks free and resists the shelter worker. In a leap, he bites the man by the throat and he falls unconscious. The dogs break out of the cage and run after Hagen. The hound, stained with human blood, finds the shelter owner and glares at him menacingly. She tries to stop him, but Hagen jumps over the woman and the other captured mongrels leave the shelter after him. In the meantime, Lily and her father are getting ready for the grand performance. Daniel helps his daughter put on her shoes and takes her to the concert hall. The orchestra begins to play, and the father feels proud of his daughter as he watches her from the audience. Hagen, meanwhile, continues to lead the pack. They reach the city center, where they attack people and wreak havoc. Passers-by run away and hide inside cars and stores to save their lives. Eventually, the dogs reach the concert hall, where Lily's orchestra is playing. They smash through the locked doors, and the alarmed bandmaster stops the concert. People panic and barricade themselves inside. Lily realizes that Hagen must be among the dogs and sneaks outside. Peter tries to talk his friend out of it, but eventually goes with her. The guard yells to them that it's the end of the world outside and the streets are swarmed with dogs.
Lefele menjetek, arra mentek! Veszett vadállatot! Ne menjetek ki!
The teenagers continue to descend and see the pack running by them. They do not see Hagen among them yet. Peter helps the girl outside and apologizes for setting her up at the club. Lily doesn't really care about that right now and sets off on her way. She rides her new bike through the deserted streets, hoping to find her dog and stop the mud uprising. But the pack catches up with her and knocks the girl off the bike. Lily hits her leg badly and lies on the ground, but the dogs ignore her and rush past her. Not understanding what's going on, she quickly comes to her senses and follows them. It turns out that Hagen is on a path of revenge against all those who abused him. First, he visits the man who sells dogs for underground fights. Seeing a lonely dog, the dealer isn't the least bit frightened, but becomes terrified when a loyal pack appears behind him. The dogs tear the villain apart, and Lily discovers the crime scene. The dogs have already run off to look for their next victim, and the police arrive and question the girl as a witness. But the girl doesn't know anything, and the cops put her in a car to take her home. Lily overhears the cops getting ready to start hunting down the stray dogs. The girl quietly gets out of the car and runs away to find Hagen before they do. She reaches the meat store and finds the butcher who tried to kill Hagen dead on the floor. The gruesome sight makes her throw up. Suddenly, a phone rings in the dead man's pocket, and the girl uses it to call her father. She says she must find Hagen, but Daniel is worried about his daughter and plans to head out and find her. Meanwhile, the police drive the dogs into a tunnel and start shooting them down. Hagen sees his friends being killed and leads the pack in the opposite direction, saving them from death. Their next target is the ruthless trainer who has caused Hagen the most suffering. The man sees a TV news broadcast reporting on dogs who behave in a way that's strikingly similar to that of an organized group. The anchor asks everyone not to leave their homes. The man is not planning to go for a walk and instead merely goes to the toilet, but that's where the pack finds him. The dogs pounce on him and hold him down until Hagen appears. The dog is walking slowly down the hallway, savoring the sweet revenge. It's time for the human to feel at the mercy of a dog. Lily continues to ride her bike through the streets of Budapest, following Hagen's shaggy friend. In the distance, she sees a shelter worker with a gun and asks the dog to stop, but he doesn't listen and keeps running. The sound of the shot echoes off the buildings, and the dog falls to the ground. Lily watches helplessly as the man comes closer and finishes off the wounded animal. The pack gets to the lying neighbor as well, and then bypasses the police ambush from behind and easily deals with it thanks to the efforts of their wise leader. Lily hears a noise and approaches Daniel's house. She is worried about her father, but only finds his neighbor dead. Realizing that Hagen has remembered the evil woman, Lily understands that Daniel might be in mortal danger too. The girl panics and becomes hysterical. She must urgently come up with a solution, so she quickly packs her things. Lily gets back on her bike and rides to her father's work. They spot each other, and Daniel exhales in relief upon seeing his daughter alive. The man is standing on the building's balcony, and she can't tell him about everything she's seen, so she simply asks her dad to take shelter indoors. Daniel begs her to come to him, but Lily turns around and walks off in the other direction. Hagen appears out of the darkness. He slowly approaches and bares his teeth. The girl throws him a stick, but the dog ignores the former owner that abandoned him. He no longer sees her as a kind and sympathetic person, because all humans were terribly cruel to him. With a bark, he calls the pack, and the dogs rush in pursuit of Lily. The girl runs up to the doors of the building, but Daniel can't open them because his pass doesn't work. Lily stands alone in front of the army of dogs menacingly baring their fangs. Her beloved dog seems to have completely forgotten her.
Hagen, én vagyok az Hagen.
Daniel eventually comes outside with a flamethrower in hand. He wants to fend off the dogs, but Lily stops him. She knows the two of them can't handle the pack. Instead, she pulls out her trumpet and starts playing Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2, which has always calmed Hagen. The dog finally remembers the girl and howls, singing along to the melody. He lies down on the ground, and the rest of the dogs follow suit. They all fall silent and listen quietly to the music of the trumpet. A shocked Daniel watches the amazing scene and his daughter's tremendous bravery. Lily finishes her part, and with tears in her eyes, lies down on the ground with the dogs. The father asks his colleague not to call the police, and joins his daughter in her gesture of respect and solidarity with the animals. This film has won several awards at the Cannes Film Festival in 2014, and was also Hungary's entry into the Best Foreign Language Film category at the Oscars in 2015. 280 dogs were used in the making of this movie, which is a world record for the most dogs used in a feature film. All of them, except for the 2 trained canine actors who played Hagen, were from local shelters and underwent training for the movie. By the end of filming, they had all found new homes. Hagen is played by twin dogs Luke and Bodhi. They were found in a trailer park just as their owner was about to take them to an animal shelter. As always, look for the title of the movie in the description of the video. In the meantime, let us know in the comments, what do you think is the solution to the stray dog problem? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video so that more awesome stories are released as often as possible.